All right, guys. So welcome back to Boots Come in Pairs again. We have another good episode. A lot to talk about this week. On top of we're starting baseball within the next 14 hours here. But right off the top, Shohei Ohtani and Epi, his lovely translator. That was probably the biggest news this week, just in terms of controversy. I don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I agree that he knew nothing about where his money was going, especially in that quantity, especially for a guy that deferred 90% of his contract. Seems pretty money conscious. What do you make of the Shohei stuff? Are you buying that he doesn't know about it? Do you think he's in on it? What are your thoughts with Shohei Ohtani?
It's hard. It's hard for me to imagine that someone who spends as much time with an individual as Shohei does with his interpreter. From my understanding, it's every single day. People can hide things, and they can hide them very well, but I have a very difficult time believing that he was not aware of what was going on. I don't know if we're ever going to be able to dig up the information of him being involved unless it's very, very apparent. I believe that Major League Baseball will do its due diligence. It'll look into the issues, but I'm gonna equate this. We'll move it over to a different sport. Tiger Woods was once a very squeaky clean individual, young guy, the face of golf, in every single way. He was the most likable, one of the most likable athletes in the world. And then that scandal hit, and everybody was caught off guard by it. He had quite a fall from grace, and he has built himself back up. He's never quite been the same, obviously getting older. But I look at Shohei as being, he's the poster boy for Major League Baseball. He's the golden boy. He's the person who everyone's looking up to, this dual sports star, quiet, goes about his business. It just really gives me Tiger Woods vibes. I don't know if it's not the same type of thing, but gambling, especially on your own sport, or being linked to that in an extreme way, that doesn't look good. And if it's true, I hate to see it happen, but they need to come down on him very, very hard.
This is way worse than if this is true. If he is any way linked to anything that happened with the interpreter, and you're right, this has been like his best buddy for the past 6-7 years that he's been in the States, because like that's the only guy he's talking to. And you could see how chummy they were. So it's like, it's hard for me to believe that he just had this blind eye to it. And it's so damning to the game, because if he's betting on his games and they've shown some links between games that he's pitched in and there being large sums of money bet on, that ruins the entire integrity of the game. And that's the problem. That's the Pete Rose thing, which is probably a better comparison with what the effect is. And then, do I trust Major League Baseball to follow through with this investigation? Because he's their best player. He's the face of their franchise. He's the face of baseball right now on multiple continents. So do we trust that Major League Baseball is going to do their due diligence here and actually follow through and reprimand him? Are they going to show us everything they find? I don't know, right?
I would lean towards no, and doing whatever they can to protect this asset that they have. The game has really become less and less popular over the years, just because people's attention spans have been getting shorter. It's generally a longer game. It is one of the only professional sports where there is no time limit. That's kind of why they've implemented all these rules. They implemented another rule this year about stealing bases. Fielders are not allowed to block the base in any way, so that's going to encourage more stolen bases and more runs. They want to do whatever they can to make this game exciting, and if their best player, their golden boy, their prized gem goes down over something like this, which is serious. It could be damaging to the game, and I think they'll do whatever they can to avoid it. But with that said, there are so many players who are not in the Hall of Fame based on things that they've done, whether it be performance-enhancing drugs, legal or not legal at the time they were being done. And also Pete Rose with his gambling situation. Again, it has never been proven that he bet against his own team, which does say something. If you're going to keep the Hit King out of the Hall of Fame and all these Hall of Fame players out because of things that they've done, you have to hold everybody to that same regard, to that same standard, even if it means throwing one of your biggest stars, if not your biggest star, under the bus. You have to do it. You have to keep the integrity intact. You can't there's no rules for thee and not for me in this case. Everybody has to get punished the same.
Yeah. Well, and the difference between, even though, Pete Rose had the most hits in baseball, not argument that he would be in the Hall of Fame without all the stuff that goes on. But he was also not a very likable character. Very against the grain. There's that famous clip of him at the All-Star game railroading the catcher, and that's basically ending his career. So not the most likable guy. And Paul Giamatti basically made an example out of him. This is kind of the opposite. And it's funny because you said Shohei's a quiet guy. Do we really know that? Because he can speak English. He does understand more because he's been here for 7 years. It's kind of like that Ichiro thing where we thought he didn't speak as much as he did. But when you speak through an interpreter, I think it's perceived that you're quiet. It's perceived that you're this different, mysterious person, which it doesn't really, when you hear him talk in Japanese, he seems very fluent and very with it and very giving meaningful answers. So it would be interesting if there wasn't the language barrier, what his personality would be. And you kind of see some other things come out. And again, it's hard to wade through what's true and what's not. But it sounds like he likes to gamble. It sounds like he does enjoy fast-paced things, and he likes the anticipation of it. So those are all things to look into. I think if they did their due diligence, there may be a different outcome. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get that resolve. It's just interesting. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and I would love to see the Dodgers kind of flop on this one. It would be kind of funny. But then, again, all that deferred money doesn't really matter because he would probably be kicked out of baseball. But I can't imagine baseball would do the right thing. But it's really hard to imagine. I hope things come to light, whether it's good or bad. I think there needs to be resolve in some way, though, for sure. Yeah. And we will probably never hear from his interpreter ever again. He's probably getting shipped back to Japan, and we will never hear his name again.
Yeah, or he'll pass away mysteriously.
Yeah. Those things just tend to happen when you mess with, very specific things. Well, okay, we'll switch to some people that missed out on some money not wagering. The Scott Boras clients have officially landed, and none of them in the fashion that they wanted. We kind of have a list here of everyone, but Montgomery just signed with the Diamondbacks, and he probably won't be ready for a couple of weeks, but a 1-year, $25 million deal. So not the $100 million that we were predicting last week, but so he is the last of the Boras clients. And I was the reason why I was kind of adding all this stuff together, if you take all of the Boras clients, Snell, Bellinger, Montgomery, Chapman, and JD Martinez, and put their contract combined, it is a 9-year, $233 million contract, which is what he was trying to get for Blake Snell, right? So essentially, 5 guys signed for the Boras deal, which he probably wanted 5 times that amount. But it's good for baseball that this didn't happen. I think it's a turning point. I think it kind of shifts the power back the other way. Not that these players don't deserve to get paid, but they don't get to demand a 9-year deal when you're 31. I think that's fair. I think that's that's right. Like, these guys are not in their prime, so to speak. How do you view the Boras clients not getting their way?
Yeah. Before I get into it a little bit, I want to ask you this question. Do you think that because a lot of these guys either have a very short deal like JD Martinez or Montgomery, essentially it's a nice deal for them being their age and the season they came off of for just one season. The other guys have opt-outs in their contract. Do you think that they will be more likely, if they're seeking a multi-year deal, to accept a more team-friendly contract? Like, say they accept a 3 or 4 year deal, or do you think they're just going to be getting 1 or 2 year deals for the rest of their career? I want to, before I dive into that, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the pitchers will get 1 or 2 year deals, because I don't think it's wise for any organization to invest in a pitcher, especially at age 31 or 35, whatever Blake Snell is, to invest in a 6-year deal with them. But I think for these players, it is more likely they sign team-friendly deals because they've missed their window to sign that really long contract. Bellinger, if he has another really good year, maybe at age 28 he signs that deal, but no one else is getting that. Matt Chapman's this is his last probably big contract. JD Martinez is probably his last big contract. Bellinger is probably the only one. That's if he has MVP season, everything goes right, and he doesn't opt in, because he's got a really nice contract for the Cubs for the next 3 years. $80 million is nothing to scoff at. That's my opinion, especially for pitchers.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of feel the same way. But I think if unless it's a very special occasion, special player, younger talent with a lot, maybe a guy who is still on the way up, I think that we're going to see shorter deals from other people, though. You might give a 5 to 7 year contract to a guy who's like Corbin Carroll when he comes up, which should be shortly. He could probably get if he keeps performing, he could probably get a 5 to 7 year deal. But someone who's in their late 20s, early 30s, I think the most you can hope to get is like a 3 or 4 year deal, if that. And yeah, I mean, maybe be willing to take a shorter deal, but maybe get paid a little bit more. You're essentially having to prove yourself every year, which is good. Baseball contracts are guaranteed. So it's like we've said over and over again, 20 million is a lot of money. 30 million is a lot of money. 12 million is a lot of money. It's all a lot of money to play this game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been really, really cool to see these teams just kind of like, all right, well, you're not going to accept our offer, then we're going to pull it. And I bet if you're Blake Snell right now, I mean, I bet you that he's happy to be in San Francisco, got a pretty nice deal for 2 years, but he probably is kicking himself a little bit that he's not in New York with $100 million in the bank. Just my opinion.
Yeah, and the year's guaranteed, and because the only guy that got it this offseason was Aaron Nola. He's the only one who got a 7-year deal. So, and yeah, Yamamoto got a 12-year deal, which is asinine, especially when he gets rocked in his first start. Can you imagine if he, like, let's just say he pitches to the level of Shintaro Fujinami from last year with Oakland, who was a train wreck. They're like, okay, we're gonna like just throw him out there. He throws 98, couldn't control it. He got traded already at the deadline. I don't know how many years he signed for, not that long. But can you imagine if Yamamoto comes out and pitches like that for this first year, and you're like, oh my gosh, we have to do this for 12 more years? We just gave him how much money plus a posting fee? Like, it's for an unproven. It just
I think Yamamoto will figure it out. He has really good secondary stuff. The thing that is his issue, which is, I mean, it's early in the season and what we've seen so far, his fastball is very straight and very flat, and everyone in this league can hit that. So he's really going to have to, I don't know if it's going to be developing, getting some more, maybe developing a two-seamer, something with more movement on it, something maybe changing the eye level a little bit. He does throw a nice splitter and a couple of different breaking balls. But yeah, he doesn't have the kind of fastball movement-wise or speed-wise. He can throw hard, but he can't blow it by guys. He just can't. So he's really going to have to rely on that splitter and other pitches. But yeah, from what we've seen so far, especially in his first start, he got absolutely rocked. And it was a lot of fastballs, straight fastballs that the Padres had no problem with.
Well, and what I've heard too is that Imanaga actually had a better strikeout rate in Japan. So he's not missing as many bats, and yet he got, quadruple the deal that Imanaga got. So it's, to me, I feel like the Cubs got the better end of the deal there, because it's like they come over, they're unproven. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how they're going to look against major league hitters. And then how does that translate into the course of 162? And we saw it last year with Kodai Senga. Very good April, May, June. And then July, August, September, people started to hit him a little bit. And now he's got some arm fatigue. Now he's got some elbow issues. So it's like, that's 12 years is a long time. I think that's the biggest thing when we're talking about
even for a guy in his early 20s, it's a long time.
Yeah, pitchers don't last that long unless you're Justin Verlander. But now Verlander's having his second big arm issue. But he's 40. But like that's generational talent. And now even like Ohtani, this is his second elbow injury in his MLB career already. Mm-hmm. Is he going to come back and pitch again? It's like, and you signed him for a 10-year deal. Is he going to be hurt how many times in that span? Twice. So that's 2 years you're going to lose of elbow. It's a long time. It's just a long time. I can't even fathom. And I'm glad the Cubs are staying away from those contracts and some of our other teams that we like. But like, yeah, when the Dodgers are doing this, kind of makes me laugh, because then what are they going to look like in however many years? And let's say they do put in a salary cap. What is that going to do to them? So,
who do you think of these Boras clients? Who do you think is poised to have the best season? Who intrigues you here?
Oh, I think Bellinger 100%. I think he's so motivated because he's the youngest. He also has the most to prove and the most to gain. If he has a great year, like I said, he can go back in that free agency and get more. I think a lot of these other guys are like, if Blake Snell gets hurt this year, he's going to opt into next year's contract, right? But then what does he do after that? He's done, probably, unless he comes back strong. Montgomery, I think it's if he makes 10 starts, he can opt in for next year at $20 million or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So those guys have a lot more to lose. I think Bellinger has a lot to gain by going through this process with the opt-outs.
Mm-hmm. Bellinger is the guy for sure, but I'm very intrigued by Arizona and adding Montgomery as an arm. I mean, you start your rotation with Gallen and Merrill Kelly, who just came off one of his best seasons as a pro. Add Montgomery in here. He's a little bit behind the curve, just because of not participating in spring training because he was waiting for that contract. But he'll be around. I think Eduardo Rodriguez is injured, so he's going to miss a few starts as well. But adding those two guys, they're very capable. They've been top-end rotation pitchers. They've given innings. They're tough. And then finish out the rotation with Brandon Pfaadt, who, again, we saw in Arizona last year. He pitched really well. Near the end of the season, he pitched very well in the playoffs. He's a young guy. So you have 5 really good pitchers there, and then you have a really good bullpen as well, and some young stars coming through. Re-signed Gurriel, which is good. I think they signed another bat. I'm not sure. There was another bat I think they got, possibly. But then you're going to have another year Corbin Carroll. Hopefully Alec Thomas comes through. They got a really nice up the middle. Christian Walker came off a really good season. Moreno's a good catcher. They have a lot of really nice pieces in Arizona, so I'm excited to see them play and gel as a team.
They're a young, solid team, and I think we were kind of talking about this as they were throwing that bullpen game in the World Series. That hey, you just need probably a couple more arms, and they've gone out and done that. And I think a lot of teams are hesitant. They're like, oh, we got to the World Series, we'll just rely on our youth or whatever. And Brandon Pfaadt, sure, throw him out there. Maybe he does well, maybe he doesn't. But you're going out there and you're getting 2 solid arms. And granted, one of them's hurt, but like you're playing for the end of the season, and hopefully this youthful lineup can carry them through and have that sophomore slump. But you just got to give yourself a chance, and that's what you were missing last year. Okay, we corrected that. Hopefully that's enough to get us to the playoffs and get us to whatever. Like I said, you're in the NL West with a tough division, but you can, like I said, just give yourself a chance. You can beat the Dodgers. You've proven that. You've shown that. And they, like I said, they addressed their needs that we were kind of like pointing out in the World Series, which is cool to see. But yeah, I'm just excited for what they're going to do because they made a lot of moves that I thought the Cubs should have made. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, we are a couple hours away here from opening day for some teams. The Brewers already got canceled for tomorrow. And this goes back to like when we stopped playing baseball, I missed that, getting ready for the season. What I did not miss was 12-degree first games of the year in the snow in the Midwest. Why this? I mean, this is on multiple levels. You have the Brewers getting canceled already in New York because of inclement weather. First off, you should not play any opening day in a cold weather climate unless they have a roof. You want to play in Milwaukee, go ahead and do that. You can definitely schedule games to be out in the West Coast, all that stuff. I know it's tradition, Cincinnati always has opening day. But baseball in the Midwest in the spring is horrible, especially for the high school age kids, college age kids. There's nothing that's productive. We were talking about it with, Ryan about, how like we would just be in the gym until the first game of the year. And that was the first time we were putting our cleats on. Why do you think they push so hard to get us to play spring baseball here?
Yeah. I mean, I even go back to thinking the times in the front parking lot at Grant using those like rubber dimpled batting cage balls. I think it's just because they want to get games in and they want it to coincide with the school year. They don't want to be really having the high school sports spilling into the summer as much. But even like right March off. March is really time for like spring break games if you're going to somewhere warm. A lot of schools are going to Southern Illinois. They're going to Arizona. They're going to Florida. They're making trips. They're going down to Kentucky. They're making trips. They're playing probably 4 to 6 games possibly in a week, which is great. I think they should do that. But, yeah, it's just not you got to have special blood in you if you're going to play those games when it's really cold. I know I had the same catch partner for 2 years, and him and I would sort of, during those really cold games, we'd pray for rain because it's like, man, it's not fun playing in this weather. Your hands are stung every time you hit the ball in the wrong spot. You're cold. You're not as limber. You can't move as well. It's just not a fun environment to play baseball in. Granted, when you're playing in October and November, it's now spilling over into November in the playoffs. Those spring games, they seem about the same temperature. So when you're tested early in the season, you're depending on where games are played, who's in the playoffs. You might be playing in games like that matter later in the season too. I think it might prepare you mentally a little bit for that. But to me, I never looked forward to playing early spring games. I always loved the summer. I felt like that's when I felt my most loose, my most comfortable. I would rather sweat than freeze all day. That's just how I am. Yep. But yeah, it's tough. It takes a special individual to do well during that time of the year.
Yeah, and this would be the debate of, does like the MLB season need to be shorter? I think this is where you would trim those games. You'd trim them here and maybe at the end of the year, so then you're finishing the playoffs because now it's spilling into November. I remember that when the Cubs won, it was November 2nd. It's like that's too late. That's too late in the year. Sometimes you get lucky, but yeah, there's for the lower levels for high school, especially like sophomore year, our entire spring break in the Midwest got rained out for me, and it was just like, okay, it's like it was hit or miss. The year before it was great. But it's so catch and go, and it just doesn't seem. You're right. By the time the end of the season's, it's finally getting a little warm. You're like, okay, now I'm like getting my rhythm, and it's like, oh, season's over. Sorry, summer ball, and like, I don't know. I never liked it. My eyes would always water because you're just getting windburn the whole time, and it just seems not very productive. And there's a huge advantage to be in a warmer climate.
Yeah, it's mostly miss. It's hit and miss, but it's mostly miss. I'm not a big fan of that. If you're not a fan of playing in it, try coaching in it, because you're moving even less than them, and you're just standing at first base, standing at third base, giving signs, freezing your butt off. You're chilled to the bone. It's not fun. It's never been fun. You always look forward to those like late April to late May games where the weather really starts warming up. Everyone starts loosening up. Everything's in full bloom. You get the sun on your back. It's just a good feeling playing late spring, early summer baseball.
Yep, absolutely. But again, it's kind of spilling over in MLB because they're having to cancel games because these climates just aren't cooperating, but we don't really expect them to. And they have a lot more turf dry than we did.
Yeah, it makes you wonder too with obviously there's talks of expansion teams and there's teams getting new stadiums and all that. I think it should be a requirement for you to have some kind of roof or enclosed environment, whether it's something that can be opened or something that's closed all year round. There's just no excuse to be canceling games or just have sloppy weather. That's just something that can be avoided. So I think that it should be a requirement to have some kind of enclosure for all stadiums moving forward.
Like I do like the open air stadiums. Like I love Target Field. I like Wrigley. But going to a game at Wrigley in April or May, if you're sitting in the shadows, which is everywhere except for the bleachers, it's freezing. Even if it's like 50 degrees, it's cold and it's not enjoyable. So yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I mean, Wrigley in the summer is beautiful. You can't beat it. But you have to wait till that summertime gets here before you really start to enjoy it.
I remember going to a game. It was a Brewers Cubs game my senior year of college. I'm not sure if it was either April 6th or April 11th or something like that. I'm going to shout out Jake Seagren, who is my college friend who invited me. And I'm going to shout out Tim Sestarik because Tim came with me. I invited Tim to go with me. So it was me, Jake, and Tim at Wrigley, Cubs Brewers. We were on the first level. It was so stinking cold. It was a great game from what I remember, but so cold.
Yeah.
I don't go to a lot of early season baseball games unless they're inside, but that was the last one I remember going to where it was really early in the season and I was outside and it was fun because of the game, just the pace of the game and how the game went, and it was fun. The company was great, but I would not don't desire to venture back into that really cold, rainy weather again. It's just not enjoyable.
Nope. Yeah, you can't give me free tickets anymore for April for Wrigley. That's for sure. All right. Well, anything as we start baseball tomorrow? I was kind of thinking any predictions for like who's going to win the Centrals since we are in the Midwest. AL, NL Central.
NL Central is, and both Central divisions are very intriguing, and I feel like every other year or every couple, it kind of maybe goes in clusters a little bit, but they always look at the Centrals in both leagues and they said this is the worst division. Yeah. There's always the lowest win prediction. They predicted the winner of the division to win like 82 games, and it's like that doesn't happen very often where that's the case. They did the same thing last year, and the Brewers won like 96 games. Yeah. So these predictors, I don't know where they come from. I know it's a lot of math and computers and all that stuff, but dude, it just goes to show you how far off it is, and how you can't really take out the human development or the human spirit. There are guys who have worked at this game their entire lives, and they finally get their opportunity, and they kill it. Team cohesion, you can't measure that. That's an immeasurable thing. So it's very interesting, both leagues. I think it's really up in the air. In the NL, I mean, the Cubs are for sure a front runner based on the things that they've done. They have a lot of young guys who are chopping at the bit as well, who are ready to be called up at any moment. There are some prospects who are on the major league roster, like Michael Busch, who this is really a prove-it year for him. Yep. He's 26, going on 27, which is, again, not an old guy by any means, but you really want to get your career going at this point. It's time for him. He was blocked by incredible players. He's going to get a chance to start. Then you have players like Shota Imanaga, who first year in the big show, playing in the States, playing against the best talent in the world. It'll be interesting to see how he does. You got Dansby in his second year with the team, hopefully continues to get more comfortable at the plate as well. Yeah, there's just a lot. Bellinger signing his deal. The Cubs have a lot of firepower and there's a lot of intrigue around what they can do, but it's not going to be a cakewalk for them. St. Louis is going to be chomping at the bit as well. Didn't have a very good season last year compared to what they're used to. They're going to be fighting the Brewers. They're always there, regardless of not having Craig anymore. But Coach Murphy is going to prove himself as a manager. They have a lot of pesky young talent. They promoted their number one prospect, Jackson Chourio, who we're all very excited to watch. Young 20-year-old kid who is a 5-tool player. He can do it all. He can steal bases. He can hit bombs. They got a couple other nice players too. Solid pitching staff, regardless of losing Corbin and not having Woodruff. The Reds are a tough team. They're always tough. And the Pirates are the Pirates. I mean, I'm sure they'll beat some teams too, but the NL Central is tough, and the AL Central, I mean, the Twins and the Indians are always there. I really expect big things out of the Tigers this year. They got a nice young core. They got some players some pitchers in particular who are on prove-it deals like Jack Flaherty and Kenta Maeda. Add all their young arms. Casey Mize hopefully will have a nice full season. He hasn't really been healthy since he's been drafted out of Auburn number 1. You got Alex Fado. You have Tariq Skubal, who I've said before is probably going to be in the Cy Young contention with the stuff that he has. Great young left-handed pitcher. And then, again, the offense. You got Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, lots of fun young players on that team. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't really want to talk about the rest of that division because I don't think they're really contenders at all. The Sox and the Royals are in the stellar, but at least the Royals have a guy like Bobby Witt who will be exciting to watch. So, yeah, I mean, if I were to pick them now, I would say Cubs win the NL Central, and I'm thinking that it's either going to be the Twins or the Tigers winning the AL Central. Okay. Not that I want to write the Indians off because J Ram and all those guys over there, they're tough, but I think Tigers are going to do something this year.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat, maybe for different reasons. I feel like the Cubs are kind of surfacing as not the favorite. I don't think there's a favorite in the NL Central because it is close, but the Brewers have gotten tremendously worse, and they've won the division the last couple of years, and they've kind of been the class of it for the last 5 because of Council. But you don't lose your top 2 pitchers and replace it with nothing and expect to continue that run. And I think they've done. I mean, they had Rhys Hoskins, but other than that, their lineup we saw last year when you rely on prospects, they fizzle. Joey Wiemer by the end of the year wasn't hitting his weight. So no. And Monasterio at third base was absent. None of those guys even they were on the playoff roster, but we're not playing. So I think calling up Jackson Chourio does not make you a top of division team. No. You can't write them off because they've just shown that they're capable of winning a lot of baseball games, but I don't like them this year as a favorite for sure. And the Cardinals, I mean, Sonny Gray already got hurt, and they didn't really add any more. We're talking to Jeremy like, oh, are you skeptical of what they're doing? They added Lance Lynn again, and it didn't seem like anyone else really wanted them. But I feel like their plan's already kind of falling apart. And I like Arenado and Goldschmidt. They're probably 2 of the best corners in the game, but they're also a year older, and maybe they won't be as productive. So I do like the Cubs for the competition reason too, because you're right. They have a lot of young guys that are hungry and trying to get in the lineup. PCA is probably going to be knocking on the door too, like, hey, don't forget about me. They just have a lot of quality guys. I like the rotation to start the year. I like Assad and Wicks at the back end. I think that's really solid. You move Kyle Hendricks from that first slot to that 3rd or 4th slot, and it's like, okay, we can work with this. But yeah, not to be a homer, but I do like how they've kind of shaped out the spring. Seiya Suzuki's really hot right now too. So it'll just be interesting to see how they go. But I would take the Cubs at 88 wins, winning that division. I don't think anyone's going to get it in the 90s, at least. And for the AL, I think you're right. I think the Tigers were trending that direction at the end of last year, and not because of Javi Baez. If anything, in spite of him. But I think the Tigers at like 85, 86 wins that division. You're right. It's not a good division, but it's competitive. It's tough.
Yeah.
You don't have anybody running away with it. You have the two teams in the dumpster. But yeah, it could be the Indians. But I would not. I'm going to put my prediction on the Tigers because I just think they were trending that direction at the end of last year.
Yeah, I mean, Torque impresses the heck out of me. Kerry Carpenter, for those who don't know that name, that guy is such a good player. Not that he came out of nowhere, but he really had made his name as a professional baseball player last year. He's 26, 27. He's a really solid outfielder, really solid hitter, makes a lot of contact. He's a good guy. Matt Vierling's another guy who's in the outfield. He's really good. The young kid, Colt Keith, is probably going to make his debut. He was one of those guys who, younger player, but signed a multi-year deal. They have him locked up for a while, so he's going to be playing. Hopefully they can get something out of Baez. He really needs to have a really solid year to redeem himself. But yeah, they just have a lot of nice young players. Jake Rogers behind the plate, former Cubs catching prospect. He calls a good game. I think between these young pitchers and these guys on the prove it deals, I mean, Kenta Maeda and Jack Flaherty have once been the top of rotation for good teams. They're good pitchers. They know how to strike guys out. They have good stuff. Just have run in on some hard luck lately, especially Flaherty. He's been injured quite a bit in the last few years, but I don't know, man. I liked what I was seeing from them last year at the end. They got really close to being at 500 where no one expected them to be. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really up for grabs for them. And I think if you can get a superstar effort out of your superstar shortstop, you're only going to be in an even better position. So Javi needs to come to play this year. I think it's going to be good for the Tigers, good for Tiger fans, and good for baseball. It's good for baseball, and Javi Baez is electrifying, simply put.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's going to get back to that, but we will see. But other than that, going forward, opening day is always a lot of fun. Like I said, people kind of forget about baseball after opening day for a couple months. But another congratulations to Ryan Noda for making another team and starting at first base. It looks like the last 2 days he was leading off and starting at first in those two Bay Area games. So more fun watching him this year. Hopefully he gets the full complement of games and can keep his glove up and not have balls hit him in the jaw.
Yes.
But I think
first opening day start.
Yes.
First opening day start of many.
Ecstatic for him, and it was just nice to see him kind of settle in during spring and kind of look more like he was just getting ready for the season instead of playing for a job. But I'm just looking for him to do a lot of good stuff out there, and you're one of 30 first basemen starting opening day, so that's very cool.
Yeah.
And again, thank you to Nick Gunther for the T-Rats swag. Ryan got to visit him last weekend, but very cool. I kind of like the hat, but just we look forward to doing that this summer as well. They start their season in about 6-7 days, April 6th. So it'd be fun to get out there and do that when it's warm.
Yeah,
probably,
for sure.
Probably in August or July or whatever it is.
And speaking on that a little bit, just huge shout out. Nick's a great friend, great brother to us. Awesome guy. He I was fortunate enough to spend the weekend with him in Appleton, showing me around. I got the full stadium tour. Got to see where the ops happens, their bullpen, where they do all their work, whether it's in the marketing department, sales department, operations, their Fox Club, where they host all their events. I got to see the field, their clubhouse guys. I mean, we're talking about the work environments improving for these players. Man, what an impressive clubhouse and players lounge. At the minor league level, what you're doing is you're cultivating the talent, and you're taking care of these guys so they can perform at their best. You're investing in these guys, so they will yield you the results that you want at the big league level. And the Timber Rattlers and the Brewers have pulled out all stops for these guys. It's a very relaxing environment. Every tool, every comfort that would allow one to play their best and succeed, the Timber Rattlers and the Brewers have provided. So that the Timber Rattlers are a class act organization. They're making improvements. All their employees are on board and doing the things to help the team succeed. So yeah, very much looking forward to headed over to the Fox Cities in the summer, catch a game, and watch this great organization and their prospects perform. Really looking forward to that. Yeah. And shout out to Nick Gunther again, man. Such a treat, such a pleasure to be able to see you in your environment and for you to take the time to show me around your great organization. It means the world.
Yeah. As long as the big club is doing poorly, we're fine with that.
Yeah.
When they're prospects, they're so far from the major leagues, it doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
But yeah, very fun. But we will definitely get out there, and we will get excited for tomorrow for more big league baseball. But until then, we'll talk to you guys maybe next week, maybe not. We'll see. But we'll just see how the schedule works. But until then, Boots Coming Bears. Take it easy, guys.
Peace, y'all.